The gates are open, the matches are getting underway, and you can see lots of people are enjoying the porch area.
The feeling was incredible. That's amazing, especially we had such a great fight today on court, both of us.
Look at the numbers. Look at the ranking sheet. Look at the prediction market sitting at roughly $15.3 million of cumulative trading volume on a single player's individual match markets. Because what those numbers are collectively telling us this morning in Washington, D.C. is something that women's tennis has not had to process very often, and something that anyone who has followed this sport for the last 3 years needs to sit with very deliberately before they dismiss it. Alexandra EALA of the Philippines is ranked 29th in the world. Zhang Qinwen of China is ranked 123rd. The gap between them on the current WTA singles rankings is 94 places. 94. And when the Polymarket money line for their Mubadala City DC Open first-round match opened at 3:33 in the morning Eastern Time on July 26th, the price on EALA was hovering at around 71%. Let that number breathe for a second. 71%. In plain language, on a liquid prediction market backed by over $15 million of trading volume across EALA's individual match markets alone, the collective intelligence of people putting real money behind real reads was saying there is close to a 3 in 4 chance that a 21-year-old from Manila beats the reigning Paris 2024 Olympic singles gold medalist in the first round of a hard-court tournament in the American capital. Read that sentence again. Then read it one more time. Because for anyone who has genuinely followed women's tennis over the course of the last 3 years, the shape of that sentence should feel disorienting. It should feel like something that does not quite fit the world you have been watching. And yet here it is, printed on a prediction market with $15 million of liquidity sitting underneath it like a foundation. So we need to have a very clear, very serious conversation about what is actually happening here. Because the story is not just about one first-round match on a Sunday morning in July. The story is about what this match reveals, about 2 players, about a market, about a sport in the middle of a very real power shift that is playing out in real time on hard courts and grass courts and prediction market dashboards simultaneously. Let's start with the 2 shapes that are colliding today, because you have to hold both of them in the same hand before any of this makes sense. Alexandra EALA is coming off the most consequential 3-week stretch of her career. Full stop. Not her best week, her best 3 weeks. At Wimbledon 2026, she made a 4th-round run that included a center court victory over the defending champion. The defending champion, the woman who won the title the year before, walked out onto the most famous lawn in tennis, and EALA dismantled her. 6-7 in the tiebreak, 6-2 in the second set. Clean, decisive, authoritative. That match was played in front of a watching Roger Federer in the stands. Think about the weight of that room for a moment. And by the time the second set unspooled and the color had drained slowly out of the favorite's face, EALA had authored what stands as the most significant single-match victory by any player from the Philippines in the Open era. The WTA's own fan poll for Star of the Grass Swing voted her the winner. She captured close to 90% of the vote. 90%. That is not a close poll. That is a statement of consensus. Her 2026 calendar year ledger reads as follows: 30 wins, 18 losses, a WTA-level grass court title at Birmingham, a career-high ranking inside the top 30, a maiden Wimbledon second week, prize money of just over $1.28 million for the year. These are not the numbers of a player being gifted a favorable market price. These are the numbers of a player who has earned every decimal point of it. Now hold the other shape. Zhang Qinwen is ranked 123rd in the world right now for one specific and entirely legitimate reason. She spent the majority of the last 12 months rehabilitating from arthroscopic elbow surgery she underwent in July of 2025. She missed the final 2 majors of last year. She withdrew from the 2026 Australian Open. She only returned to tour competition in February at Doha, where she opened her comeback with a 3-set win over former Slam champion Sofia Kenin. Those are the 2 arcs: a rising Filipina entrenched inside the top 30, a wounded Slam finalist rebuilding her body from the ground up before she can even begin to rebuild her game. And here is the tension that the entire story has to live inside. The market is doing something that a lot of longtime tennis observers instinctively and emotionally resist. It is telling us that on a hard court in Rock Creek Park in Washington, D.C., on the 27th of July, 2026, the ranking data and the recent form data outweigh the pedigree data. outweigh it heavily. Because if you look only at what Zheng Qinwen has carved onto her career resume, the emotional math points entirely in her direction. Olympic gold medal, Paris 2024. Singles, on clay at Roland Garros. A career-high world ranking of number 4, reached in June of 2025. An Australian Open final in 2024. When her body has been available to her, she is one of the most imposing ball strikers in the entire sport. Her Doha comeback match against Kenin was not a soft return to form. 20 aces, 43 winners. A woman who had not competed at tour level in roughly 5 months, walking out and hitting through a former slam champion with that kind of production. That is what she is capable of on a day when her serve is working and her elbow is quiet. The market has all of that data. It has priced all of it, and the market still says EALA. That is the sentence worth focusing on. Not who has the better trophy case, not who has the more decorated resume. The market has absorbed all of the pedigree information available and still landed at 71% in favor of the 21-year-old from Manila. Why? Let's walk through the evidence, the way anyone with a serious stake in this analysis would walk through it. The first thing to understand is that the market itself is not a thin, noisy instrument shouting a random number into the void. $15.3 million of cumulative trading volume across one player's individual match markets on Polymarket is not a novelty figure. It is a signal that a genuine forecasting infrastructure is being layered on top of professional tennis in real time. There is enough liquidity in that pool that the price is being sharpened continuously by people who are looking at the same publicly available information and putting capital behind their read. This is a moderately deep market, delivering a specific, considered, and continuously updated price. That matters. The second piece of the puzzle is the ranking gap itself. And here is something people often miss. In tennis, ranking implied win probability against a significantly lower-ranked opponent on a given surface typically sits somewhere in the mid-60s to low 70s range, depending on the specific players, the round, and the conditions. The Polymarket price, wherever it sits at any given minute on match day, lands squarely inside that range. It is not exotic. It is not inflated by hype or sentiment. It is in fact roughly what the raw ranking mathematics would generate before any additional human judgment is applied. The market is not overvaluing EALA. It is pricing her at almost exactly what the ranking data demands. The third piece is form. Because rankings are a trailing indicator and form is a real-time one. EALA's form entering this match includes a straight sets Wimbledon second-round comeback over Laura Siegemund, a third-round win over Magda Linette, and a genuinely compelling fourth-round loss to Jasmine Paolini in 3 sets on center court. 6-4, 4-6, 3-6. She competed in that match. She did not collapse. She fought to 3 sets against a player who reached finals at Roland Garros and Wimbledon. Zheng's form entering this match includes a first-round loss at Rome to Anna Bonder, a first-round Wimbledon exit against Katerina Siniakova, in which she won just 4 games across the entire match, and the Doha comeback that produced those electric numbers against Kenin before flickering out against Elena Rybakina in the round of 16. If you were pricing this match blind, with the names removed and only the form ledgers in front of you, you would favor the top ledger. That is what the market has done. Now here is where the story has to slow down, because this is the moment where intellectual honesty becomes non-negotiable. The market is not saying Zheng Qinwen is finished. Anyone reading this that way is misreading the price. The market is saying something much more specific and much more modest. It is saying that on this particular day, in this particular first round, one player is currently more likely to win one match. Everything beneath that sentence is nuance. And the nuance includes something important that belongs in the honest accounting of this story. The head-to-head record between these two players is not blank. They have played once before. September of 2023, the Asian Games, hard court. Zheng won in 3 sets and went on to win the Asian Games gold medal that same week. EALA was 18 years old at the time, Zheng was 20. Both of these players are, in almost every meaningful way, entirely different athletes now than they were on that afternoon in Hangzhou. But the record is the record, and the only direct on-court evidence anyone has of these two women sharing a court belongs to Zheng Qinwen. A fair analysis does not hide that. It names it. The other counterweight worth naming, honestly, is match sharpness. EALA has not played a competitive match in 21 days. Her Wimbledon fourth-round exit was on the 6th of July. This DC Open first round is on the 27th. That is 3 weeks of a training block, a surface transition from grass to hard court, in a transatlantic travel window from London to Washington. She has not been match tested inside that gap. The market may or may not have fully priced that variable. Zhang, by contrast, has played tour-level matches within the last 4 weeks, even if results have not gone her way. Match sharpness is not distributed equally between these two players right now, and if there is a genuine hidden edge in the underdog case, that is precisely where it lives. But here is what makes the EALA side of this story so compelling, even after you account for all of that. The authority validation she received 3 weeks ago did not come from a ranking algorithm. It did not come from a prediction market. It came from Jasmine Paolini, the Italian ranked 13th in the world at Wimbledon 2026, a Roland Garros finalist, a Wimbledon finalist, a player who has been deep inside the biggest matches in women's tennis for 2 consecutive years. Paolini sat in her pre-match press conference before their 4th-round meeting and, without any theatrical buildup, called EALA a very dangerous player. Those were her words on the record. "Alex, she's a really tough opponent." What makes that assessment carry real weight is what happened immediately after she said it. Paolini backed up her own words. She went out and beat EALA in 3 sets, proving she had correctly diagnosed the level of threat sitting across the net. The point is not that EALA won that match. She did not. The point is that a slam finalist with full access to the scouting file and the match tape walked voluntarily into a press conference and, without being asked, publicly categorized EALA as a danger before proving she was right to do so. When a professional player of that caliber chooses the word dangerous in the ordinary course of her pre-match media duties, she is telling you something specific about the level she has actually observed across the net, in practice reads and on match tape. That is not a ranking speaking. That is not a market speaking. That is professional authority speaking from direct experience. And there is a broader frame around all of this that deserves its own space in this conversation. Prediction markets have arrived in tennis quietly over the course of the last 2 years, and the DC Open sits in a city where that arrival has been almost physically visible. Polymarket operated a pop-up bar in Washington earlier in 2026, complete with live market feeds and real-time price screens. $15.3 million of trading volume on one player's individual match markets is not a novelty number any longer. It is a signal that a specific kind of forecasting infrastructure is now being applied to professional tennis in a way that changes how match narratives are built and consumed. And what that infrastructure is asserting publicly today, with real money behind the assertion, is that ranking data and current form have begun to outweigh career pedigree in match forecasting at this specific tier of the tour. That is a measurable cultural shift. 20 years ago, an Olympic gold medalist walking onto a hard court against a player ranked outside the top 25 would have been priced as the favorite in almost any market, almost regardless of recent results, because championship pedigree carried a heavy discount rate that compressed the odds. In 2026, the market is asserting clearly that recent matches matter more than old trophies. That is a specific, nameable change in how professional tennis is being read by the people paying the closest attention to it. It is worth saying out loud. And on the cultural side of this story, there is one number that belongs in the frame before anything else. Alexandra EALA is the first player from the Philippines to reach the 2nd week of a Grand Slam in the Open era. Not a general milestone, not a footnote, a specific, dated, singular record. Wimbledon 2026, 4th round, 6th of July. That is the resume line that allows everything else in this story to make coherent sense. Without it, the market's price today would look eccentric. With it, the price looks like arithmetic. She is the first Filipino player to occupy this room, and the room she is currently standing in is the one where an Olympic gold medalist is priced as the underdog against her on a liquid prediction market with $15 million of volume underneath it. What Zheng Qinwen said in February during the days surrounding her Doha comeback was not the statement of a player expecting to walk through any draw unchallenged. She said, and this is a direct quote as reported widely at the time, she did not pray for winning matches. She prayed for a normal elbow. Read that sentence and understand exactly what it communicates. That is a champion talking about a body that must be rebuilt before it can win again. That is someone whose relationship to competition right now is fundamentally rooted in the process of recovery rather than the expectation of results. It is a remarkably honest and grounded thing to say, and it tells you precisely where she is in her arc right now. 2 players, 1 draw, 1 match. The market has spoken with $15 million of collective reasoning behind it. The scoreboard will answer shortly on a hard court in Rock Creek Park. But here is the thing that needs to be said clearly before the first ball is struck. Whether EALA wins this match or loses it, whether the market gets the result right or gets it wrong, something has already happened that cannot be undone. The room that a top 30 ranking, a center court Wimbledon victory over a defending champion, a WTA fan award capturing 90% of the vote, and a slam finalist publicly calling you dangerous all place you in. That room does not disappear based on one first-round result. It is the room where Olympic gold medalists are priced as underdogs against you, on liquid prediction markets backed by millions of dollars of real capital. No player from the Philippines has previously stood in that room. Alexandra EALA is standing in it right now. The gap between her ranking and Zheng's ranking is 94 places. The gap between the room Filipino tennis is occupying this morning and the room it has historically occupied is harder to quantify. But it is at least that wide, probably wider. And to Zheng Qinwen, coming back onto a hard court with a rebuilt elbow and an Olympic gold medal in her bag, doing this the honest and difficult way, the room is generous to her as well. 2 players in it now, 1 match to play. The market has made its call. The court will deliver its answer. And wherever that answer lands, the door behind both of them stays open.